Hello, this is the latest episode of the Silverfox Hustle podcast. I'm your host Shasi, and do remember we are out on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and the works, obviously. And don't forget to just follow us, subscribe to us, and tell me who you want to see for your next guest, and I'll try my best. Right now, let's go. Let's kick off with our latest episode. Now, she is someone who I can say wears many hats. Right, and she's kind of versatile like that. She's an actress, she's a producer, she's a director, she's a corporate trainer, she was a lecturer, and many more, right? And she's also an architect.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And you forgot real estate agent.
Oh, real estate agent
now.
As well, right?
As well.
An avid diver. She is a marine conservationist and ambassador for Shark Guardian. We're going to talk about that a little later on, right?
Okay.
And she's here as well, and she will probably and hopefully share a little bit of a secret in the past, and of course about the Me Too movement as well, because I think she has been influential in that in Singapore, right? Welcome to the Silverfox Hustle podcast.
Thank
the beautiful
you.
Debra
Thank
Teng.
you for having me, Shasi.
My pleasure. Just before we go on, we kick on, just a little bit to warm up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You told me you came from a dance class.
Yes, I did.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
What kind of dance do you do? You're not an instructor, right?
No, I'm not.
Alright.
So I'm doing Latin dance. So
Wow.
do cha-cha. So this morning was samba. So yeah.
So you actually learn.
I'm learning.
All right.
Yeah.
So how good are you now?
I'm okay lah. I've
Yeah?
always had dance in my blood. So
Okay.
I was dancing
Right.
since I was... Actually, I was a part-time dancer at PA when I was... when I was about 10, 12 years old.
I see.
And they actually paid me to go for rehearsals. So that actually helped too. So I got free dance training and, and I love dancing.
Right.
And and I got paid for it as well. So that's
Then
awesome.
Then
as a
why do you
child.
take up dancing when you can actually teach dancing?
No, I can't. I think there's so many great teachers out there, and my teacher is amazing.
Right.
This like Russian dude
okay.
from, this Russian. He's like some international dance champion. So
I see.
he is so good. Like, amazing.
Brilliant. Now again, I have to say this, right? You dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to keep fit? Because you look great.
Oh,
You look great.
You're so
what,
kind.
yeah,
Thank you.
So what do you do to keep fit?
During COVID, a lot of work was cancelled, right? So I had no
okay.
choice but to, not work. So instead of working, I was running a lot, and then so the running kind of like took a life of its own. But I was always also very into health and fitness, so
Right.
I was doing HIIT workouts, I was doing yoga, and I started doing yoga about 10 years ago because I have got I've got degenerated disc
Okay.
in my lower back.
Right.
So because of the collapse of the disc, right,
Okay.
I've got like this pinched nerve. So I started doing yoga to help me
Right.
to rehabilitate, and now it's become a part of my life. So there's HIIT, there's yoga, there's dance. What else do I do? I love gymnastics.
Wow.
Yeah, anything. Love
Brilliant, lovely. This podcast is about showcasing my guests and what they've done, the hard work and what have you, right? Now let's go back a little bit, because you've done so many things, and I don't
It
think
is called the Silverfox Hustle, and
I-
I'm the hustler.
I don't think 2 hours is enough, but we'll try to make it as short as possible, or try to compact this one, right?
Okay.
Summarize a little bit. Let's go back a little bit. Now, growing up, how was your childhood like? Schools that you went to.
Well, childhood. How far back do you want to go, and how much time do you have?
As far back as possible, man. Okay, growing up, like
Growing
siblings
up.
and stuff like that.
Okay, so I'm one of 5. I'm the baby of the family.
1 of 5?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm like an accident child, so there's like, all of them were like 1 year after another, and then whoop, a long gap, and then I came along. So definitely an accident child, I
Okay,
think.
okay.
And so when I was growing up, my brothers and sister were all already in school. They all had a life of their own. They all had their own friends, and I was always at home because so I would have to invent stories, play by myself, and my parents were very, very strict. So I wasn't even allowed to go for other people's birthday party. And my parents want to make sure that I don't mix with the wrong company. So they were very fussy about who I was allowed to play with.
Right.
So growing up, I was always like that.
I thought the youngest one will always be the pampered one.
Well, I don't know. Well, my brothers think I was pampered, but I don't think so.
Yeah?
Yeah, I got beat up quite a lot.
By your siblings or by your parents?
Well,
Both.
okay, one of my siblings and
Okay.
and my parents.
I see,
yeah.
I see. Right, right. Schools wise, which schools do you go to? Interesting, this one.
Yes. Do you know?
I know. You tell us. You tell us.
I'm always a bit embarrassed to say which school I went to. I went to
Why?
RGS.
Why? Okay. RGS people. How was that? School wise, the CCAs that you took up as well.
Yeah, well, RGS is a great school with a great reputation.
Yeah.
For me, it also felt like a place that always made me feel like I was never good enough, and that's how they motivated me, to make me work very hard.
Why?
Because, why do they do that? Well, just make you work harder, lah. Don't keep you humble.
How do
keep
they
in
do
your
that?
place. Okay, we've got a very strict discipline mistress, and she just put the fear of God in me. Every time I see her, I'm like trembling, I'm like really, really scared, and I just feel like I have to be the best, otherwise I can't and also my parents, I would come home and show my dad my report card, and hey, I'm second in class, and he's like, why aren't you first? I'm like,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
The standards are out there, man.
Yeah.
CCAs wise, what CCAs did you take?
In RGS, I was in choir, I was in gymnastics, I was in dance, I was in LDDS,
Right.
drama. And I was also very churchy. I was leader of a prayer meeting group. So I was, very much, church was a big part of my life.
Can you call yourself as an extrovert or not?
I think the extrovert side is a learned behavior. I think I'm really naturally very much an introvert.
Right.
But I love the energy of the people around me. So I
Okay.
love having people around me
Okay.
like this, It's
Right.
it's a rare occasion for me because I live alone and, I don't really
Right.
interact with too many people.
Okay.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Oh,
And I
then
love it. I relish when I get a chance to talk to
this is great then.
human beings.
This is great. Wonderful. Now, I just want to pick up on something that I read about you, and it may not be nice, but you did say, right? You did say that family life was dysfunctional, right? Why was this so? Just share a little bit of why.
I think in those days they probably never thought of it as being dysfunctional, right? When I was growing up, my
Okay.
parents were a lot older because I came along when they were already quite old, and my parents actually went through the Japanese occupation.
Okay.
So and growing up, I always wondered why they seem to have so much rage in them.
Okay.
And I never understood because I was I think naturally I was a happy child. I loved laughing and being happy, but there was a lot of beating. I was getting beat up quite a lot.
Right.
In today's world, they'll be like, "Oh, this is child abuse." We'll call the social services on you.
Yep.
But in those days, it was just the way you bring up children, make sure that children, turn out okay. So, when I was growing up, there was a period of my life where when I was really resentful about the way I was brought up because I felt like there was so much pain and fear in the house. And as a child, when you don't feel safe in your own house, it was a very scary, growing up home was a very scary
Right.
place growing up.
Right.
Not by my parents' fault. I think they did what they could, their best, and life was really hard for them. They didn't, my parents, bless them, they single-handedly brought up 5 kids.
Exactly.
And not easy in those days. And they're not rich, They're, in fact, very, very, they struggle a lot.
Yep.
And so I did a documentary about my dad because,
Okay.
I always struggled wanting to understand how my parents turned out the way they did. And so one day I thought, I was doing a film course and thought I'll do a documentary about my parents and just to figure out what made them tick, what made them the way they were.
Yep.
And then I realized that, oh my God, they went through the Japanese occupation as children. My dad saw his father almost get killed by the Japanese. My mom, my mom had her family house seized by the Japanese, and she would see like people getting like tied to trees and getting beat up and beheaded as a child. When you witness stuff like that, that's got to really mess you up when you grow up.
Right. It's like a PTSD, isn't it?
I'm sure, except they probably didn't even realize.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Yeah.
And you're very right about, nowadays if something goes wrong, it's like child abuse. It's like,
You're a teacher, you know that.
Yeah, it's true, right? And but before we used to get like, beat up by our parents, but it's
my brother got like tied to a tree,
tied to a tree.
Yeah. That was before I was born,
Right,
but
right.
that was
Okay.
what I was told.
So like I guess communication was a bit of a problem as well, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about happy times. Let's talk about acting,
Okay.
right? Because that's what you are, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's what you are, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? Today was the Oscars. Do you know that?
Oh yeah, of course. Yes.
It's
I saw it on the news before I left the house.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Perfect timing.
Exactly.
You planned
I
this,
planned
didn't
it.
you?
I planned this.
Huh.
Things happen for a reason. Tell me what happened at age 5, Debra.
Okay, so I, growing up, I spent a lot of time on my own. So I would like make my own toys, and I would invent stories, and I watch a lot of TV.
Yep.
So when I was 5 years old, I was watching TV and watching, funny enough, like the Oscars, presentation. And then I was just watching. I don't even know, I can't even remember who was being presented the award or what. But then I started tearing, and I just felt like something shot through my heart.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, like that was what I was meant to do. And I can't even tell you why that feeling was so real.
Yep.
And why that voice just felt like so strong and so loud in my head.
Right.
But, yeah.
So
it was
that
there.
was it. And congratulations, you made it.
I did, yeah.
Now tell me how. Okay, at 5 you had this dream, so to speak. Right?
No, it wasn't a dream. I was actually watching TV,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it kind of like
Yeah.
hit me.
So the dream was to become an actress
Oh,
after
yes,
watching
that's
that.
right,
And
yes.
and how does anyone work on that at age 5, especially? Forget about what you went through in terms of the official studies in terms of Mount View and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At age 5, how do you go about thinking, okay, I want to be an actress?
Yeah, and coming from a very poor family
Yeah.
at that, it's not like, my parents could say,
Yeah.
you can be
True.
anything you want, and
Yeah, so how did you work on that? It's weird.
It is, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think when the calling is so strong, you just, and also I was a terribly shy child. I wasn't one of those like, look at me,
Right.
I can sing, I can dance. I was not that child at all.
Okay.
And so I was very, very shy. And also I think the whole acting, the whole theater world saved me. Saved me from my childhood.
Right.
Saved me from from what I was experiencing growing up,
Yep.
feeling unloved and
Right.
feeling so much fear
Right.
growing up. I think being in the theater made me feel like there is a space that I can be happy. I can actually act and be that happy person, even though, when I get home, I'll get beat up and I'll cry and all that. But when I'm in the theater, I'm a different person. I have a different life. I can be, I could be a princess. I could be whatever. It's like I have control
Right.
in that world.
It's an escape.
It's an escape. Yeah, it's a world that made me happy.
Right. So is it fair to say that it was in school where you picked it up in terms of CCAs or whatever, acting classes or whatever in school? Yeah.
I guess when I was in primary school, I was in CEDA and very, very quiet, very shy. Except
Okay.
that when the teacher made us like read, read whatever,
Yeah.
and then I would come alive, and and my teacher
Yeah.
would be like taken by surprise.
Yeah.
This quiet little thing actually like suddenly becomes a
Right.
different person when
Right.
I give her a script or something to read.
Yeah.
And so one day, I think back then it was SBC
Wow.
was actually
Yes,
I think
yes.
looking for child actors, and they went
Okay.
to school and say that can you send some of your children for audition.
Okay.
So my teacher said you go.
Okay.
And so I went, and then I and I started doing like children's television
see,
when
I
I was
see.
like 10 years old.
You know, like the Mickey Mouse Club lah.
And no, I remember like having to cry on TV and all
Oh really?
that. Yeah.
Oh, that's difficult, man. What's the secret of crying on TV? Tell me.
When you've had enough pain in your life, it'll be easy.
Can't be only that. What? Are there any tricks?
Oh,
Like crying, like.
it's really just like really embodying the feelings, the emotions, the life of the character, and
There's
yeah,
no
the
other.
tears.
There's no other.
If the scene calls for the tears, it will come. I
Wow.
mean, if you are, if you've really
Now you know why I'm not an actor, right? Oh, that's difficult. That's crazy, man. Like that,
I can never be a footballer. So
no, especially like those scenes, right? Like crying and stuff. Like
well, actually, for some people, crying is the easy part. There's some people who can actually whose tears are so accessible, can like cry on cue.
wonderful.
So yeah.
You won Best Actress at RGS. How
Oh,
was that?
yes.
What was
Oh,
that?
my
What
God.
did you act as?
That okay.
Can you remember?
I think I was. I think I was. I can't really remember exactly the role. I think I might have been. I was. I think it might have been a play called Jane Eyre.
Right.
Maybe I
Right.
can't remember what play it was.
Yep.
Or some other play. I can't remember.
Right.
Anyways, yeah. So I don't remember.
And you
Sorry.
won the Best Actress.
I did, to everybody's surprise, because
Why?
okay, most people who go to RGS came from RGPS.
Okay.
And I was the only one from CEDA in my year that made it to RGS. So I was very lonely when I got to RGS. And I was Sec 1 at the time.
Okay.
And most of the time, the people who won the Best Actress Awards are the popular girls in Sec 3 or Sec 4.
Okay.
And all the teachers have their favorites, and it's usually some ambassador's daughter, or RJS had a lot of like important people's children and grandchildren there, and I was a nobody from a nobody school, and so when it was actually before they had announced, I knew that I really loved doing theatre and I really enjoyed doing the play. And so I went and hid behind, I think it was the Air Rifle Range, I can't remember where it was.
Okay.
And I started praying, and I prayed to God, and I was like, it feels like this is what I'm meant to do. But Lord, if it is, the path you've chosen for me, give me a sign, let me know. And lo and behold, they announced that I won the
Wow.
Best Actress Award. And I was like, oh my God, I can't possibly disobey God now, having given such a strong sign.
Did that really cement your hunger to be an actress?
I think I had always known that this was what I wanted to do, but like you said and rightly pointed out, the path to do this is not easy, especially when I didn't have like the right family background for it.
Okay.
So it was an uphill task. I mean, the early days of theatre was a lot more inclusive in a sense that they didn't care what kind of background it came from. If as long as you love it, there will be a chance for you. And they would always have auditions would always be announced in the back pages of the what is now called the live section.
Right.
Yeah, and I would go for those open auditions.
Okay.
And it was awesome because all the theatre companies would always audition. I mean, today nobody really hold open auditions anymore. But back then, the auditions were always open, and the theatre works in the early days in the 80s and all that.
So
very
anyone can
open.
go.
Anyone can go, and
right.
and really it's about how you perform in the audition, and if you're good enough, you get a role. And there were lots of workshops. From people from overseas that come and I'll sign up for those workshops as well.
We all know that it's important that if you're good enough, you're good enough, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and not always it happens not only in acting, in
every
everything.
field.
Every field, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward a little bit, right? You've acted in many shows on TV, in theatre as well, Malvin High, The Pupil, to name a few, right?
Yeah.
How did you get your first break in acting? Was it like you said, an open audition, or especially on TV, where people get to see you on TV? What was your first break like?
I think the TV thing came because I was doing a lot of theatre.
Right.
And I think some of the TV producers actually saw me in some shows.
Yeah.
And so they asked me to go and audition
Right.
for something on TV.
Okay.
And yeah, so the early days of the acting was always a bit like over the top because I came
Okay.
from the theatre. So
Right.
everything was like, you got to make sure project to the last row of the
Right.
audience.
Right.
So yeah,
what-
but then you learn to tone down after.
which is a good point, right? I just wanted to ask you, right? What is the major differences, in acting in theatre as well as for the screens, so to speak, right, on TV? What are the major
Yeah.
differences?
Well, for screen, your audience is really right up there because your camera is like right there, and
Yeah.
and it will be magnified a lot more as well. So every subtle move, even just like a slight move of
Right.
your even pupil in your eye, is captured.
Right.
Whereas in the theater, you're performing to like 300, 400
Yeah.
people and sometimes 1,000 people. So you got to make sure that even the last row can see what you're doing. So everything is really very much bigger and
Yep.
exaggerated so that, yeah.
Nice. Now you talk about auditions, right? Like for a screen, for TV show, right? How is that like? Is that like how I would watch it on TV? When people go for auditions, like, is it that scary? Like, what do you have to do?
Well, that's usually a script,
Right.
right? So these days, there's a lot of what they call self-cast. So they ask you to, they send you the script and they're like, okay, just put yourself,
Okay.
on tape and send
okay.
it to us. Nowadays, like, especially because of COVID and all that.
Yep.
Yeah, but pre-COVID, they will ask us to come, and then the guy auditioning you will be behind the camera, so
Okay.
they'll read the script and they'll press record, and
Yeah.
and you react to them.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's kind of scary, isn't it?
it's okay lah. It's part and parcel of the job.
Wow.
It's you got to think that you are actually doing them a favor and helping them because they want
Yeah.
they want to find the right person as well.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, right? Like
Yeah.
you are helping them and they want to get the right person.
Yeah.
Is there any role that suited you? You think, in your opinion, like
Mm-hmm.
something that you think that, well, it's for me. Is there any role that you think?
Oh, any role that suited me. I've always loved the early days of my work with this director Lee Tianjin.
Okay.
He's he's so prolific now. He's won so many
I
awards.
think I've seen his name in the credits, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
he's done a lot of great stuff.
Okay.
And in the early days, he did a lot of quite edgy kind of work,
Okay.
which I really, really love.
Okay.
And his writing was so spot on, so good.
Right.
And one of the things that he did, which I still love a lot to this day, although I think that film has been lost, it's a telemovie
Okay.
based on Christine Lim's short story called Or Else the Lightning God.
Okay.
Yeah, and the way he shot it was, I think, the first time we were shooting on film, because
Right.
before that it was always on beta tapes.
Okay.
Right, and the quality, it looks very flat, but when you shoot on film, the quality is just so different, and the lighting and everything was so spot on. And I remember Jerry Ho, who's actually who was acting in the role. I wasn't actually meant to audition for it, but my friend Jerry wanted someone to read with him because he was auditioning for a
Okay.
role, and he dragged me along
Okay.
to audition with him, and then I got the part.
That was a trick, right, by your friend. You are versatile in terms of doing many things, right? Like in terms of profession and what have you, right? In terms of acting, do you think that you can pull off different roles as well?
I would like to think so.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
What roles have you played in terms of like different roles? Tell me.
I've played a dominatrix,
Right.
and I played an 84-year-old grandmother.
Okay.
So
Really, 84-year-old grandmother.
yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I can't say that I would win an Oscar
Those
for
are
being
extremes,
an
man.
84-year-old grandma, because when I watch back, I cringe a little bit. I kind of feel like, okay, I could do so much better.
Right.
Yeah.
But we always critique ourselves, right? I think that's the
Yeah.
best. That's the way to go. In fact, right? Nice. You talk about theatre part, right? Of course you have done producing and directing.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Like producing and the directing bit, like not many actors can or want to do that, right? Move into that.
Yeah, because it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I think when I was doing a lot of theatre, and then after a while you kind of feel like, yeah, having learn from so many great people that you work with, and you kind of feel like, and then also because I'm kind of a bit odd for even the theatre circle people, because I have so many different parallel lives. I'm also a dancer. I'm also a gymnast. Right. I'm also an architect. So I'm also quite spatially spaces really turn me on as well. Yeah. So when I think of theatre, I always feel like there's more that can be done. There's more. So and there was especially in the late 80s, 90s, I just started to feel like I really wanna do something that puts that really gives people that whole complete sensory experience, where you can where there's not just the visual, you can feel it in your bone, the music, the even taste and sensory and everything, and also movement. And so I thought the only way to do it is to do it myself, because nobody else was doing anything like that. And so I started producing stuff. So I did something called Alice in Wonderland Land.
This theatre.
This was, I think, in Singapore's first late night series.
Okay.
So so I had this girl suspended in the old Zouk, in the old Jack Kim, right?
Yeah.
So suspended in midair, but nobody could see that. So as the audience enters, pitch dark, all they can see is this laser light, and I can, the health and safety probably a bit lacking lah, but they cannot see anything except laser light that's drawing them. So they're supposed to just follow the light through the tunnel into the space. So as they come into the space, and then suddenly they realize that they've got this projection standing under this huge projection. And the projection of this little girl spinning, spinning, and then boom! At a cue, the screen falls on top of of the audience, and then I've got dancers dressed as creatures. They dance, and then they come and take off the screen away from them, and another set of dancers will be offering them drinks. And the drinks, actually I wanted it to be alcoholic, but at the time not allowed.
It works basically.
Yeah, but not allowed, so only Coke in the end. So so we offered the audience drinks, and then they realized that actually what's beyond the screen is a real live girl spinning. And then we slowly drop her, and then she's dancing on hands. So I've got all the dancers just carrying her, and she's dancing in space, and all the dancers are just moving her around through the space, and the audience is is everywhere, so she'll be dance through the audience, and the audience have to make space for her, and then and it goes on and take the people through the space of Jakim, because the warehouse space is quite interesting, and in little corners little different things happen, and I've got little creatures in different corners.
Just listening to you there and watching you there, you just spoken like a true director, man. You just explaining the stuff that you've done, there and then. Wow.
It was so long ago, but it's still something that's very close to my heart.
Yeah, I can tell that. I can feel it as well. Wow. Brilliant. Any challenges that you face in when directing any piece, whatever, theatre or what have you? What are the challenges?
In that particular piece, I think the main challenge was really getting funding, because when I sold the story, that show to NAC for the late night series, they're like, we love it, but we don't have the budget. So here's a letter for you to go and canvas for money from companies.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I've got 3 months to put the show together and canvas for money.
Right.
And so I have to say, I really am so grateful to the companies that came forward. A lot of them didn't give us money, but they gave us in-kind kind of sponsorship, like the screen, the projections, the costumes, So in that sense, that brought the cost down by a lot. And I really wanted to pay every person. And back in those days, right, I'm just grateful to be able to act, and so
Right.
I never even thought about like getting paid, right? But I just felt like I really wanted to pay all my performance, so I managed to like get a bit of money and pay everybody as well.
Is it like that now as well?
Like that, not so much now. Now it's become a lot more professional because now
Okay.
we've got like students who graduated from like LaSalle
Yeah,
and
yeah.
NAFA and
Right.
so so in the sense there's higher level of professionalism in that sense.
Nice. Now you've won a couple of awards as well in acting and directing, right? Which was the most memorable one?
I
Off
think
your head.
I think it's still like my Sec 1
Really?
RGS one because that was a defining one for me.
Wow.
So even though like New York and everything
Yeah.
was amazing, but but in RGS because that was like my pact with God in a way.
Nice. Well, Deborah, we talked about acting. Let's talk about the other things that you've done.
Okay.
Right? Let's go, man. Let's talk about some of the work, right? An architect. You have a Master of Architecture from NUS?
These days they call it a master, but
Right.
in my time they call it Bachelor of Architecture. So I had 2 degrees. So first they
Okay.
give you a Bachelor of Arts, Architectural Studies, then they
yep.
give you a Bachelor of Architecture, which is equivalent to the master.
Why architecture, may I ask? At that time, right? Because you were after secondary school, obviously, and then
After JC.
After
Yeah.
JC, and then why architecture? Was there a plan somewhere?
I can't say that I thought very very hard about it.
Okay.
Actually, I wanted to study law,
Okay.
and I wanted to but the thing is that I did art at A level.
Okay.
So and then architecture was one of my choices as well.
Right.
And so when architecture school asked me to go and do the aptitude test. It was like really long, 1 full day long aptitude test,
Okay,
So
okay.
you have to do that. I can't even remember, but I remember
Yeah.
it was like very long.
Right.
And then after that I got in, and
Okay.
so and then they just assumed that I was going to go for architecture, and I wanted to switch and say, wait a minute, can I switch to law? And they're like, no, sorry, too late already. We already put you in architecture.
Okay.
And so I just did it. I mean, a part of it is because before I went to architecture, I saw a friend of mine, RGS senior, was
Okay.
in architecture. So I went to the studio and I saw her building models and all that.
Yeah.
I thought, that's pretty cool. I really
Right,
like that.
right.
That's quite fun. Like, at least don't have to like mark for exam.
Yes.
But actually, there was exam as well.
Yep.
except that,
So, after you graduated,
Mm.
you were a full blown architect, right? So you did work.
I did.
As
I worked
an architect.
Yes.
So
yeah.
how was it like? What was the experience like?
Oh,
For how long did you?
I worked at I worked for 2 years after I graduated. But of course, before you graduate as an architect, you have to do the year out.
Okay.
And because after I did my 4th year, I actually went to Germany to do an international experimental theatre project in Germany,
Okay.
which means that I had to take the whole year after that off because the school at the time didn't know what to do with me
Right.
because they didn't have what the kids have today, like
Okay.
you can take sabbatical and all that kind of thing,
Yep.
or exchange program, whatever. But in my time, there was no such thing, and the school was like the dean didn't know what to do. There was no precedent, and so they had suggested that I took a year off. So after I came back from Germany, I also worked as an architect before I
Yeah.
came back to join the next batch of year 5
Right.
to finish my architecture
Yeah.
degree. So after I graduated, I worked for another 2 years, and I have to say I was really blessed to work for a really great firm,
Yeah.
great mentor. So it was I actually had tears in my eyes when after working for 2 years, I went to my partner in my archi firm and told him that, I'm gonna leave architecture to do theatre.
Mm.
And I think he couldn't understand because I was really doing really well.
Yep.
But I think a lot of things happened when I was in those 2 years. I mean, a part of it that RGS like cannot lose that spirit, right? Kind of like drove me to work to myself to the bone. Like I would not see daylight. I would come
Wow.
in early in the morning, work till like 1-2 a.m., go home, sleep a few hours, take a shower, come back to the office.
Yeah.
So for a period of time, I didn't see daylight. I lost like 10 kilograms. And I realized that, maybe I should take a break after a while.
And go back to your first love.
Yeah, actually, I always thought I would just take a short break and come back to architecture.
So you haven't gotten back since that?
No, I'm still in touch with my architecture friends, so
really?
I still meet up with them, and they're all doing so amazing now. Yeah.
If you were to go back, would you have like lost touch or anything, like in terms of the work itself?
It would be hard because I would have to get used to all the regulations, like building regulations again.
Right.
And then I'll probably have to eat humble pie and start from, like a fresh grad again.
Right. Lecturer at RP as well for a bit. How was that? Was it good? That was for how long?
Fun,
2 years, right?
I was part-time. I wasn't full-time.
Teaching what exactly?
I was in this school called CCC. I don't know whether they still have it. I think it was called Culture Communication Center or Communication Culture, something like that.
Yep.
CCC.
And you were teaching comms?
Well, it's a problem-based learning kind of thing. So I wouldn't say I taught them anything. I just
they taught themselves.
Exactly, yeah. Just present the problem. So it was great lah. I just have to present the problem and choke them a bit and push them along.
Nice.
Yeah.
How about your role as an associate partner?
Oh, in Gallup.
Gallup, yeah, business development. What did you do there exactly?
Okay, I mean, associate partner sounds like a very nice title.
It is.
Yeah.
It's nice for the CV, man.
I know, right? but really, it's just a glorified name for a salesperson, really.
Come on, it can't be that bad.
I mean, as in like, no, I mean, it's there's a lot of work involved in the sense that you have to, because I dealt with like mostly the C-suites in the region.
Right.
And Gallup, they were kind of like rebranding to, because a lot of people know Gallup as like the polling company. So at the time, they were trying to become more like a consulting firm.
Yep.
So, and so you had to kind of like really build a lot of the network with the C-suite people, because they are the ones who are in the position to award $1 million kind of deals, projects, right? And so... Yeah, and also you had to work with multinationals or like the government bodies kind of thing.
But listen, whatever you've done in terms of the work that you've done, it must have been great experience as well, because you've done many things.
Yeah.
You meet a lot of people as well,
Yeah.
from overseas, local as well.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thing that you've done, something that is interesting that you haven't, or I don't know about? Besides the acting part, obviously.
I'm also a coach. Like I'm a certified coach.
Of what?
So I guess you say life coaching.
Life coaching,
yeah,
right? Okay.
Although I do executive coaching as well.
So how do you do that? Like one-on-one?
It can be one-on-one or one to a group as well.
Right. So you still do that?
I still do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what kind of stuff do you do? As in like what kind of so-called topics do you...
Well, a lot of it depends on the coachee, what they bring to the table. So it's not really about me solving, that problem. Kind of different from like football coach, which I know you are, right?
Okay.
So a football coach, you would probably like diagnose, what this person needs to get better at, and give him like some exercises or whatever, or train him more, right?
Okay.
Whereas as a life coach, it's really about getting the coachee to empower themselves.
Right.
So we help them find the greatness within themselves.
Okay.
They're usually stuck somewhere in the way they're thinking about certain issues or their life or whatever, and so we try and like ask them questions to help them unpack some of those things that they need.
This sounds like something like a psychologist would do.
Although I'm not like a psychologist.
Right.
So I don't deal with people who need professional intervention, for instance, like schizophrenics and all that. I cannot.
Okay. Interesting, man. Interesting. That's very interesting. So you've got a couple of clients, or as of now.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and also I do pro bono work as well for that, as and when I have time, because I think a lot of people really just need someone they can talk to, someone who is willing to be straight with them and ask them some tough questions. And I think there's not enough of that in our society. People asking like those difficult, tough questions to each other. We all want to be very nice. We all want to be liked. And but
very true.
sometimes,
Yeah.
you got to ask questions which are not pleasant.
You are papering over the cracks.
Yeah.
Most of the time, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real estate. You're still doing that as well,
I
right?
am, yes.
Wow. How many things are you doing at one time?
Hey,
Debra?
I got no husband, no children, so
Is that a hint or what? hint. So you sell houses as well. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real estate came because well, it was a gradual process. So when I came back from Mount View, so I studied in Mount View for my drama.
London, right?
In London, yeah. I did my postgrad in acting in Mount View.
Right.
And 2 weeks after I got back to Singapore, I got hit by a car, and then I realized that, oh my God, as an actor, I have no security. I have no insurance. I have no one's gonna pay me when I can't work. And then I panicked, and I realized that, oh my God, I need to really stop living in this la la land, that things will work out somehow. I need to really think about like making sure I have a roof over my head. Because also at that period of time, I broke off with the biggest love of my life at the time, and it was very scary because I realized I was completely on my own, and that's when I realized that I need to. That's how the whole. That's how I eventually ended up as an associate partner in Gallup, because I went into consulting.
Right.
Just to make sure that I could afford to buy an HDB flat and have a roof over my head.
Okay.
And I think you need to take care of that. And I think a part of it is also as much as I wanted to just act full time and just follow that love and follow the calling, I was also very aware that delayed gratification is something that I really need to seriously think about. While I want to do that, but I need to think about what's going to happen to me when I can't work anymore.
Right.
And so I need to make sure that I provide for myself,
Right.
since no one's going to provide for me.
No,
No rich husband.
hint again. just looking at the whole bigger picture in general, right?
Yeah.
Because of all the work that you've done.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Gallup and being an architect and stuff like that. Like, why did you have this thing of changing? I wouldn't say job hopping, but that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What was in the thinking? Was it due to ambition that I want to do something else which is bigger? You know what I mean? Or was it a lack of opportunities in that particular place?
Oh, that's a good question. I think maybe it's a bit of both, and I think I do get bored quite easily. If I feel like I've done everything I can already and I've learned everything I can from this thing already, I have a tendency to get bored, and I want a new challenge. And I'm never afraid to like start from something that I don't know anything about, like real estate.
Actually, that's quite scary for a lot of people. Like
Yeah.
moving or change. Right?
Yeah.
Change is very difficult for some people.
Yeah.
So they want to start from scratch, like real estate, like you say, right? It's
Yeah.
like learning the regulations, passing the exams, and talking to
Yeah.
people. It's not easy, right? So you've
Yeah.
got that penchant for wanting to, or maybe starting something new.
Yeah, I find change exciting. I'm drawn
Okay.
to it. I love
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Among the lot, right? Which was your favorite role or job? Take away acting.
It's acting.
No,
I
take
mean,
away
the reason
acting.
I do all this is so that I can have the flexibility to be an actor.
Right. Oh, no. Amongst your other roles, right? Like
Wow.
teaching and all. What do you think would
I
be your...
I like them all. That's why
Yeah?
I do them. And I think they all kind of like feed different parts of me. You know,
Okay.
they kind of like make different parts of me feel alive.
Yeah.
Like, the giving part, when I do coaching, it's and it's also that human relation part, and the architecture, it feeds my creative, like, my sense of space, my visualization and conceptualization and stuff. And and the real estate, well, it's about really understanding other people's needs to try and help them, find that need. I mean, a lot of people go into it with a very much of a self-interest, like, how can I sell this and make that that huge commission of you. I'm kind of like not quite that kind of a salesperson. I tend
You're not a shark.
I'm not really a shark. Yeah. So I tend to try and understand if this is something that's actually going to help them and whether they can even afford it. I'm not going to push you to commit to something that's going to make you feel like, you know, it's a little bit beyond what I can afford. I always want to make sure that my clients are in a good place.
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of sharks, Shark Guardian, what is that all about?
Okay, so Shark Guardian, right? So a long time. So I usually, when I go scuba diving, I'm always a lone ranger. Like as in that I will like, next week I have a week off. I'm just gonna take my dive gear and I'm just gonna go somewhere on my own.
Is that dangerous, by the way, to go diving alone?
Well, I usually, when you get to the dive center, they would usually pair you up with somebody, or you follow the dive master or whatever.
Right. Okay.
I mean, in very few places allow you to go on your own completely.
Okay.
But usually when on the trip itself, I'm usually there on my own rather than, you know, go with a group or whatever.
Yeah.
So on one of those trips, I was in Koh Lanta when I met this gentleman called Brenda Singh,
Right.
and he, oh, we have a friend.
Yeah.
So and he was he eventually started Shark Guardian, but at that
He's not local.
He's not local.
Okay.
He's actually South African.
Ah, okay.
And he was working in Thailand at the time.
Yep.
And just wants to join us.
Yep.
And so he so we became friends, and
Okay.
and at the time, because I really wanted to see a whale shark. I've been diving for like 30 years. I still haven't seen a whale shark, and so at that time I was like, I really want to see a whale shark. I heard that there was a whale shark in the area, and so that's why I flew down there. So I was diving for like 6 days in a row. I didn't see the whale shark, and I was like, okay, I think I'll rest on the 7th day. And on the 7th day, I get a call from Brendan out in the ocean, say, whale shark, we just saw the whale shark. It's right here right now. I'm like, oh my god, okay, can I get a boat? I want to go to but you know, by the time they were already on their way back.
Right.
So I'm like, damn it. But Brendan and I kept in touch and stayed friends. And then many years later, and he's always been like a real advocate for sharks.
Okay.
I think even back when he was in South Africa, he was always, you know, involved in shark conservation. And so when he started, and then he eventually got married and started this charity called Shark Guardians, I think with his wife.
Okay.
And and he was like, hey, you know, we're coming to Singapore. Would you, you know, like to join us as one of our ambassadors? And so I said,
Nice. So have you really seen one already in the ocean?
The whale shark, not yet, but I think it's a blessing, because then that keeps me diving. Because once I've seen everything, I'm like, can hang out my fins already.
Nice. Okay. Now let's move on a little bit. And firstly, I've got to say, right, thanks for agreeing to speak to me about this part, because it could be bring back painful memories. But it is something that I think our listeners, viewers, men should know as well, so that we can learn from it. I'm learning from it as well. So thank you again, Debra.
Pleasure. Thank you for being open and willing to talk about it.
Now, you've had an experience of sexual harassment when you were 15. I think that was the youngest, right?
Yeah.
And you know, we are going back and forth, right? We are not going in chrono order. So 15, we're going back 15. What happened?
So you know, I've always wanted to act, right?
Yeah.
So I saw an ad for looking for a young girl for a property commercial
In the papers.
So so I went for the casting, and then when I was going in, there were these like two girls at the front desk, and they looked like, you know, I mean, they were like looking at me, and I was like, so where's the casting? So they're like, it's inside there. So I went in there.
It's in a what building?
It's in a
is
building. It's I think called
Industrial.
Midpoint, not industrial. It was somewhere around I want to say Fortune Center area.
Okay.
To be honest, after that incident, I completely avoided that area and blacked it out of my mind.
Okay.
I did not want to think about that. So I went into that office for the audition. And because it was about a girl plunging into the water, so the guy told me that, bring your bikini.
Okay.
So I brought my bikini, and And then when I got into his office, he was like, okay, change into your bikini. So I was like, okay, where do I go to change?
Yeah.
He says, yeah.
Okay.
I was like, I was 15. Not even my parents have seen me naked. And so I was really uncomfortable. So I was like, can you please step outside? If there's no other place to change, could you step outside? So I really was very insistent. And then he's like, okay, fine. So he stepped outside. And then as I was changing, and then suddenly I realized that there was a red light in the glass behind his seat. And then my heart started pounding, and I realized, oh my God, am I being recorded? And then when he came back into the room, he started looking at my body in the swimming costume, and then he started, touching my body, and he put his hand under my bikini top and started fondling my breast and say, oh, we have to push up your breast. So I was like, and then I instinctively just pushed him away because, it was just so invasive. And then he's like, what's up with you? And started showing me like pictures of women's private parts. And by that time, I was like, really, I was shell-shocked. I did not know what to do anymore. So I just said, I don't want the job anymore. I just put on my clothes as quickly as I could. Walked out of his office. I was probably really ash white by the time. The two ladies outside looked at me and said, are you okay? Do you want a cup of coffee? So I said, no, I just wanted to get away. And I'm sure those two ladies outside, they knew what goes on in that room. So after that, I could not talk about that incident for years after that. And I just wanted to black it out of my head.
It's for anyone for that matter, right? It's traumatic, and for a 15-year-old as well. It's
Yeah, it was. And at the time, there was no education. I had no idea what happened. I was half blaming myself because I thought I should be smart enough to not get myself into situations like that. And I didn't know who I could turn to. I didn't even know if I should go to the police, whether is it an offense or is it just me? I put myself in that situation. I walked into that room. And so I didn't know what my rights were. I didn't even know that it was a violation. I didn't know he was in the wrong even.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, just looking back, right, you would have treated this differently, I'm sure.
I think
Just
the kids today having so much more awareness about it now, they probably would identify straight away that that is sexual harassment and that is wrong, and I'm gonna call the police right now on you or whatever. At the time, he's in a position of power, and I'm just this 15-year-old girl who's there to audition for a role in your TV commercial. And I had no power, and I was angry. I was, and at the same time, I was ashamed. I was ashamed that I allowed someone to touch me like that, and
which in the first place wasn't your fault.
Yeah, but I just felt so much guilt at the time, and today a lot of the kids would know that it's not your fault, because this is someone who was a predator. He had actually violated your space, and this child, you should be protected.
And to think of it being advertised in the papers as well, and then how many other girls could have been fallen prey to such a wow, and it's difficult to just imagine anyone being in that position. It's ridiculous. And how did you overcome, or did you even overcome that fear? Because then the next audition you go to, for example, or a casting or whatever, it plays in your mind, wouldn't it?
Well, I think after that, I tried to put on a brave front. As I always did. I think I always tried to pretend that I'm stronger, I'm braver than people think I am, and even though I never really dealt with that trauma, I think for a long time. It wasn't until I think in JC2 when I finally told a friend, and when I told that friend, he cried, and for me, I just felt like I just needed it just felt good to finally be able to say it, to tell somebody that that had happened. And I mean, talking about it now, it doesn't hurt anymore because I think it's so far away, and I have dealt with it, I think, in my own way.
Right.
But I would never want anybody else to have
Yeah.
to go through what I went through.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about this, the incident and stuff. And I'm just thinking, right? Even today, things could still happen.
Yeah.
In any casting or whatever you want to call it, audition or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure. And
I'm sure. And the thing is that the other thing that was happening in my head was that I didn't dare tell my parents because if I told them, they would say no
your
more.
fault and
no
your fault
more.
as well.
Yeah, you can't go for any more
Yeah,
auditions.
yeah.
And because acting was like my life. If I didn't have acting, I would probably die. And so I wanted to still have the ability to go and audition and all that. And and I would imagine a lot of people, if they encountered this at an audition, they probably wouldn't tell their parents either, because they want to be able to keep going for auditions if acting was something that meant that much to them.
Yeah.
And I think on some very sick level for me, it kind of like made me feel like I'm going to beat this, because I'm not going to let this stop me from going for another audition. I'm going to beat you, and I'm going to prove that I'm going to do really terrifically well. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, again, this is for men out there who are watching this and listening to this, right? Define what sexual harassment is. Is it, especially, okay, for example, if you are in a casting, for example, what is defined as sexual harassment?
Well, I think it's unwanted attention of a sexual nature, for instance, right? Whether it's a touch, whether it's just I think I think you can unbutton, and just reaching out and just unbuttoning without asking for permission. I think you should always be respectful, and maybe get a lady to talk to her and ask her
if you can,
if you need to adjust her clothes or whatever, and always ask for permission. I think a lot of the gray area also comes in the dating. In the dating area.
Okay.
I've had I go on a lot of these dates from dating apps.
You do? I don't know. So you do? Okay.
I do.
A lot of people do that, right?
I don't meet people any other way.
Okay, so
yeah. So I've had men who would reach out and play with my fingers, and I'll be like, "Excuse me, I don't think we have that relationship where you can just touch me."
So you
without
do
my
say it out.
permission. I do say it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and they may think that I'm uptight or whatever, but I'm gonna tell you where the line is.
Yeah.
And I think and I think men should learn to be respectful and not assume that just because I met this person on a dating app that she's up for anything.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes men cross the line in that way. A little bit too friendly in in the physicality, even in the language.
Yeah.
I think being respectful is something that's got to be there.
Right. Now, we talk about the Me movement, Me Too movement, which was started in which year was it? 2015? Was it 2015?
I think it was 15. Was it 17?
Right, some time
Around
back,
then,
right?
Yeah.
What led you to get into this movement and of course start off with your YouTube videos, because I've seen a couple of those episodes. What made you do that?
So at the time, the Me Too movement was all over the news in every country.
Right.
Everybody was coming forward and saying that, oh yeah, this happened to me too, and that's why the Me Too movement, right? But when it came to Singapore, we had maybe one article, maybe two about it, and then it was quiet.
Okay.
And because I've been in the media industry since I was 10 years old, I know a lot of stuff happens.
Yep.
and you know, it's not just that one or two like really bland story.
Yeah.
It happens a lot, not just in the media and entertainment world, in the working world as well.
Yep.
You know, as you know, I hustle across
Right.
a wide range of areas, and yeah, and I just felt like, hey, you know, we are not that sanitized in Singapore.
Yeah.
And it's important that we talk about it, because we do want things to change. We do want things to be better. And if we don't talk about it, if we keep sweeping it under the carpet and pretend that, oh, you know, we're Pleasant Vale, Singapore, nothing bad happens here. That's not true. That's not real. And I do not want the future generation. If I had a child, if I had a daughter, I do not want my daughter to grow up in an environment where women continue to be not respected, and that sexual harassment is allowed, and is something that, you know, a lot of men still get away with.
Yeah.
I feel like it needed to be addressed.
Yep.
And I have to say that a lot of good work has happened in the last few years, that a lot of organizations are actually putting a lot more spotlight on it. There are legislations have been looked into to see how we can actually
Yeah.
define, even have that definition of what sexual harassment is, and have a policy as to how to deal with it at the
Right.
workplace, in the media. If you're shooting a nude scene, you know, what should be done, how do we, you know, create a safer space for the women.
Right. So basically that answers the question about why you're doing this, right? The Me Too movement, and how you got with the YouTube series Under the Carpet. It's called Under the Carpet,
Yeah.
right? How was that? What was the response like?
Oh, it was great. I mean, we. So I don't know if I can talk about this, but actually when I first started it, I wanted it to be I did a bit of a research. Realized that at that time we hadn't really done any research about sexual harassment in Singapore since probably like 10 years ago by Aware.
Okay.
And it was done with only with a very specific group of people in the workforce, and then nothing for a long time. And I thought, you know, that's not right. It's such an important topic.
Right.
So I actually went to the government and said that, you know, can we do a nationwide survey? And it needs to be something that cuts across all the different sectors, different age groups, because I can tell you, it happens in school, it happens in a university, it happens at a workplace, it happens in all the industries. And the government actually said to me, yeah, this is a great idea. Actually, what I wanted to do was I wanted the government to actually put sort of like phone booths all over the country. You know, whether it's near schools, outside schools, in Raffles Place, where the maids congregate, and whatever, everywhere, so that people can anonymously walk into those phone booths and either type a message, record a video or a video or just an audio about what happened to them, and so that we actually have some data about, you know, what's going on, how much of it is going on. So they said, you know, great idea, but, you know, we don't have a budget for it. You know, why don't you go and find private sponsorship? And I was like, I'm one person, and this I can't do this and make a living at the same time.
Right.
And so I thought, hey, let's look at what resources I do have. And so so grateful that Pixel from IMDA actually sponsored the project. So they gave me the studio space for free, and then I just put out a message on the Facebook, and people just came volunteering and said, this is a great project, I really want to be a part of it. So I had all these amazing people who just volunteered, and from as far as Philippines. So I had what's this studio called? Lab, I think. Yeah, please. Damn, I forgot. It's a while ago. Anyway, so from as far as Philippines came forward to help us with the project. So they actually help us with the edit part of it. and then I reached out to Aware, obviously, because Aware has always been actively, you know, working with women. So got Aware on the show as well, and got through my network, friends or whoever who were, I mean, I wanted to kind of like do. I don't have the budget to do as big a project as I originally envisioned. So yeah, and then I went to, because I was a scholar with British Chevening, what do you call that? The UK. I went to Mount View on a UK scholarship, so I went back to them and asked them, would you like to, you know, sponsor in some ways? And they were so supportive. So the High Commissioner was like, you know, we'll do a launch event for your show at his residence.
Right.
So, and then SPH was there, so we got a really nice write-ups from Straits Times, from New Paper, Chinese paper as well, Zhao Bao, yeah.
Nice. Any thoughts on how we could help women, you know, after looking at all this, and you know, what can be done more? Is there anything that can be done more to help? And by the way, if you haven't watched this on YouTube under the carpet, right? It's not only about women. I watched the episode with the male as well, right? Who was sexually harassed, right? So anything that we can do to help women more.
Well, like you said, you know, sexual harassment is not just women are not the only victims. It could be anybody. It could be your son. It could be your daughter. It could be, you know, your mother, your sister, anybody. I think what's important is really, I think it takes a village to create a safe space for everybody. It's about everybody looking out for each other and not just think that, oh, you know, it's not happening to me. I'm just gonna look away. I think everybody has a part to play. If you see it happening, call it out. If you and a lot of times, a lot of people who are the victims, they may be too scared to talk about it. So call it out, and actually, you know, if you catch an act in action, just stop it right then, and don't ever make the victims feel embarrassed or like it's their fault. I think you know, don't ever do that.
It's never ever their fault.
No.
The victims especially. Thanks, Debbie, for that part. You know, I think again, difficult part, and difficult for you to, you know, evoke memories from the past, right? But thanks again for that sharing bit, and I think we can all learn from that. Now let's before we wrap up, right, a quick fire round.
Okay.
Very easy.
Should I be scared?
Easy peasy for you, right?
Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
It's okay. Easy one to start off. Favorite food?
Laksa.
Drink?
Teh si siu dai. No. Teh po siu dai kasi.
What's kasi? What's that? What's that?
Si is the carnation milk,
right?
So teh po, I like my tea light.
Okay.
And less sweet siu dai.
Okay.
But I like more si.
Okay. Wow. That's a mouthful, man. Favorite actor?
Oh, can I also add red wine?
Can.
Okay.
Why not?
Favorite actor? Oh, jeez. Besides me?
Yes. A male one, male actor. And then I'll come to the actress as well.
Oh, okay. Johnny Depp, he makes me laugh.
Actress?
Actress. Me?
Yes. You?
Me lah.
Okay lah. Theatre or TV?
TV.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Film.
Right. Acting or directing?
Acting.
Pet peeve in the acting scene?
Not being inclusive to everybody.
Okay, great. If you were a superhero for one day, what would it be, or who would it be, and why?
I want to say Wonder Woman, just cause the new Wonder Woman is like, you know, she's like an Amazon woman.
Right.
She's like strong.
Right.
She's, you know, she's fit and and she kicks ass. But I would like to, I don't know. I mean, combination.
That's reason enough.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman. Biggest influence in your life?
I would have to say it would be church, actually.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Your biggest disappointment so far, at least?
Oh, biggest disappointment. Um, I don't know. I mean, everything teaches you something, right? Disappointment. I don't know lah.
Okay, next one.
Okay.
Your biggest accomplishment so far?
Making it to this age and still haven't killed myself yet.
Right. I won't ask you what's your age. This is the most difficult question, but you got to answer it correctly. Okay. Your favorite podcast at the moment?
Oh, of course, it's the Silverfox Hustle.
Thank you so much, Debra.
Thank you, Shasi.
Any advice to girls, women out there who wants to take up acting?
Make sure you have a good support group,
Yeah.
support system around you,
Right.
because it's a profession that can give you a lot of reward, but can also really break your heart. So you want to make sure that that you have good people around you to be your cheerleaders to keep you going.
Nice. And any tips for being as versatile as you?
Have an open mind
Yeah.
and enjoy change.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, right? The change part. I said it just now, right?
Yeah.
Even for me, is you want to change and do something else which is totally different, outside of your comfort zone. I think that is the scary part. It's fear, basically, of change. And thanks. I think that is a willingness to change. I think that's very important as well in certain areas, right?
Yeah, it's great. Enjoy it.
Yeah. Debra Teng, thank you so much for being on the Silverfox Hustle podcast. It has been a pleasure having you with, and thank you for all that you've shared. I think those were some very interesting stories as well, especially in the acting bit, and then of course the Me Too movement as well. And I think we've all, and listeners and viewers will all learn from that. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Shasi.
Cheers. This has been the latest episode of the Silverfox Hustle podcast. Don't forget to share this on the various platforms. You're out on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Till the next episode, the hustle beats talent when talent doesn't hustle. Cheers.